Hi there, it's Matthew from Gimba Labs, where we're all about Cardano education and collaboration. Check out the description below to learn more about what we do. With native tokens being introduced after that merry hard fork, it's important to focus on paying transaction fees from a usability standpoint. By usability, I mean you want to make it very easy to pay transaction fees. And one of the ways to do that is to let you use native token themselves to pay transactions, instead of being locked in to using ADA only. Enter Babel Fees, introduced by IOHK Chief Scientist Professor Agalos. But first, let's take a look at their reference to Hitchhikers to the Galaxy.
What is that?
Put this in your ear.
We have unwittingly picked up a couple of hitchhikers.
The fish is translating for you.
It's a fun analogy, really, so let's try to use it in our discussion. In Hitchhikers, the protagonist takes a fish to the ear and all of a sudden gains the game-changing ability to understand any language spoken in the universe. And the universe is just a lot more fun when you can understand what's happening regardless of language. Bringing it back to Cardano, the experience on-chain for users is just going to be a lot better if they can just use the native token they're most interested in instead of having to maintain a separate bag of ADA just to make sure that they can transact on the system. So let's real quick check out the diagram that IOHK provided us. So let's look at this diagram. We have the classic Alice and Bob situation here, with Stacy added who could be, for example, the stake pool operator, or anyone willing to cover the fee in ADA in this situation. But let's make this example a little bit more concrete. I think the coolest organization that has moved over to develop on Cardano right now is SingularityNet. And so here we have, here we have Alice, who is looking to use the SingularityNet marketplace of AI and machine learning algorithms. And she wants to pay Bob, who might be a developer that's hosting his machine learning algorithm on the platform. So she sends 9.48 AGI as a transaction on the system. And we see that this transaction forks into two forks. In the first fork, if you follow it, we see that Bob ends up with 9 AGI. And then when we follow the second fork, we see that this fork has to do with transaction fees, with Babel transaction fees. All right, well, let's take a closer look at this part of the transaction. We see that we have 0.16 ADA. That's just the standard transaction fee right now on our blockchain. And then we have the 0.48 AGI that comes from Alice's transaction. And this implies a 3-to-1 exchange rate, 3 AGI to 1 ADA. And how do we arrive at this? Well, it's actually set by the person covering that transaction. In this case, let's say it's Stacy, a stake pool operator. Keep in mind that Stacy has to pay 2 transaction fees. One to make sure that the swap transaction takes place, and another to make sure that Alice's transaction goes through. So it's only natural that Stacy gets to set the exchange rate at which she's comfortable at covering this. And at the end of the day, Stacy gets to accumulate more of the AGI token that she's interested in, and Alice gets a very seamless user experience of transacting on the Cardano blockchain. So let's review that. Alice declares she wants to send 9 ADA to Bob, and she also declares that this transaction has a liability of 0.16 ADA. And she is enticing the marketplace to cover that liability in exchange for 0.48 AGI. Stacy consumes that UTXO from the mempool, paying 0.32 ADA to process the consumption of that UTXO from the mempool, as well as covering for Alice's original transaction. Lastly, let's ask, why does ADA have to be involved at all? Well, it's common wisdom that in blockchain, every transaction should have a fee. Otherwise, there would be nothing stopping someone from spamming the network with transactions such that it renders the blockchain unusable. Since anyone can create a token, it's hard to know in early stages whether it's worth anything. I mean, you can print 1 billion coins, and then just use them to transact on this system, and we will have the same problem as we had before. So following that, ADA remains the underlying token to pay fees in our blockchain. But what Babel Fees does is it provides a marketplace to do spot swaps between native tokens and ADA so that we can cover these transactions in native tokens. In conclusion, I think this will be great for the Cardano ecosystem because it creates an opportunity for a side job for SPOs to hopefully generate more revenue in a different token, thus creating a hedge portfolio of tokens. Also, more transactions occur on the system to facilitate this ease of use, and I may be wrong, but I believe that this will translate into a larger rewards pool for people staking their ADA. Lastly, as stated before, it's great to be able to explore the Cardano universe, being able to use your preferred native token. Thanks for watching. Make sure to join our Discord channel.